Let's transition and let's go to some NFL. Let's talk about the NFC and let's talk about some of the top tier quarterbacks in the NFC. Most of these quarterbacks I'm going to talk about, they are all the quarterbacks of playoff teams. And so the question of this segment is, which NFC quarterback do you want for a stretch run? And so it's, I would say, 5 quarterbacks in the NFC I'm looking at right now. It's Brock Purdy, it's Jalen Hurts, it's Dak Prescott, Jared Goff, and Matthew Stafford. And so obviously, so far during the season, Brock Purdy and Dak Prescott have been at the top of the NFL MVP conversation throughout the season. Let's start off with Brock Purdy. So far this year, Brock Purdy, 29 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 3,795 passing yards. He's completing 70% of his passes. So he is an NFL MVP candidate. But the issue that I have with 49er fans and people who want to say that Brock Purdy is the NFL MVP, to me, Brock Purdy is not even the NFL, or I'm sorry, he's not even the MVP on his current football team. He's not. When I look at the 49ers, right, it's so many players on the San Francisco 49ers who I feel like are more valuable than Brock Purdy is. And I'm not trying to say that Brock Purdy is not a good quarterback, because I was wrong about Brock Purdy. During the season, in the early part of the season, I said Purdy was average. Purdy is good. He's good. And he's playing some very, very great football this year. But I don't believe Brock Purdy is a great player. Yes, the 49ers offense flows at an elite level with Brock Purdy compared to what they did with Jimmy Garoppolo or Nick Mullins, okay, or Trey Lance. But that doesn't mean that Brock Purdy is the NFL MVP. So the thing is, when I look at the 49ers, let's just start off with their offense. Offensively, you telling me that Brock Purdy is more valuable than Christian McCaffrey? You telling me that Brock Purdy is more valuable than Trent Williams? You telling me that Brock Purdy is more valuable than Deebo Samuel? He's not. He's not. Again, Brock Purdy is playing at an elite, great level right now. But he's not elite, and he's not a great quarterback. He's good. On his best day, he's good, okay? But for me, I can't say that Brock Purdy is the NFL MVP, and he's not even the MVP on his own football team. So I'm not going to select Brock Purdy as my NFC quarterback that I want for a stretch run in the playoffs. Let's get to Dak Prescott. Now, Dak Prescott, to me, he's having an MVP caliber season. You look at Dak Prescott this year, 28 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 3,639 passing yards. He's completing 69% of his passes. If this was about the regular season, I probably would pick Dak Prescott to lead my football team on a stretch run in the regular season. If I needed my team to win 3 or 4 straight games, I probably would select Dak Prescott in the regular season. But in the postseason, that's a different story. You look at Dak Prescott in the playoffs for his career, 11 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. He has 1,559 passing yards. He's completing 63% of his passes. His postseason record is 2-4. And the last 2 years in the playoffs, especially last year in the divisional round, the Cowboys, remember, they played against the 49ers. I thought last year in that playoff game, the Cowboys honestly outplayed the 49ers in that playoff game. But the reason why the Cowboys lost was because of Dak Prescott. So, to me, if I needed Dak Prescott to win me a few games in the regular season, he would be my guy. In the playoffs, for a stretch run, to possibly get to an NFC championship game or a Super Bowl, I'm not picking Dak Prescott. I'm not picking Dak. Now, let's look at Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts this year, 19 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, 3,035 passing yards. He's completing 66% of his passes. This year, Jalen Hurts has not played at an MVP level like he did last year. Like last year, Jalen Hurts was a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. Throughout the entire season last year, Jalen Hurts was a top 5 quarterback throughout the season, and even in the Super Bowl, despite the Eagles losing to Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, Jalen Hurts played at a very, very elite level. He played some great football last year, but this year, not so much. And in the Monday night matchup against the Seahawks, that loss, Jalen Hurts threw 2 interceptions. And so his 12 interceptions have not been very good this year for the Eagles. And I know he's injured. I think Jalen Hurts is injured. I don't think he's 100% right now. But nobody in the NFL at this point in the season is 100%. But I don't know. I don't know. Like Jalen Hurts, to me, he will have an opportunity to play at an elite level in the playoffs because it will offset his subpar regular season performance. Because in the regular season so far this year, he hasn't been very good. And neither has this Eagles football team over the last month. Now, let's talk about Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford, 23 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, 3,648 passing yards. He's completing 62% of his passes. The thing with Matthew Stafford is he's a veteran quarterback. He's already had experience in the playoffs. A few years ago, he won a Super Bowl for the LA Rams. So Matthew Stafford is a quarterback that has experience in the postseason. Now you look at his numbers in the playoffs during his career, 13 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 2,096 passing yards. He's completing 67% of his passes. His record is 4-3 in the playoffs. But you got to remember, a lot of those playoff losses for Matthew Stafford were with the Detroit Lions. And the Detroit Lions were one of the worst organizations in the NFL when Stafford was in Detroit. The only legit weapon that Stafford had was Megatron. So I'm looking at these quarterbacks. I ain't even going to include Jared Goff because I know Jared Goff and the Detroit Lions, I believe they are 10-4 right now, and they are leading the NFC North. But I don't think Jared Goff is on the level of a Matthew Stafford, a Jalen Hurts, a Dak Prescott, or a Brock Purdy. But if you're asking me right now, heading into Week 16 in the NFL, the way he's currently playing, believe it or not, the quarterback who I trust to go on a deep playoff run in the NFC, it's not Brock Purdy. It's not Dak Prescott. It's not Jalen Hurts. And it damn sure ain't Jared Goff. It's Matthew Stafford. That's the quarterback right now who I trust to go on a deep playoff run at the quarterback position. It's Matthew Stafford. Yes, it's Matthew Stafford. I still got questions about these other quarterbacks in the playoffs. With Jalen Hurts, it's about health. Because I know if Jalen Hurts was healthy, I believe he would be playing much better. But the results are the results. It's a results-oriented business. Brock Purdy, again, you can't be the NFL MVP if you're not even the MVP on your own football team. Dak Prescott, in the regular season, he plays at an elite level, but in the postseason, not so much. Not so much. So I trust Matthew Stafford more than I trust Dak Prescott or Brock Purdy or even a Jalen Hurts. So Brock Purdy is my NFC quarterback who I believe could go on a stretch run. Now, when it comes to the team that I feel like should be favored in each conference, let's start off with the AFC. To me, the favorites right now in the AFC has to be Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens. I believe they are playing at a high level, and I'm going to get into the Ravens 49ers preview a little bit later on in the show. But if Lamar Jackson beats Brock Purdy, then Lamar Jackson should be considered the NFL MVP frontrunner as we head into the last 2 weeks of the season. But I think right now in the AFC, the road to the Super Bowl is going to have to go through Baltimore, because I believe Baltimore, they are not only the best team in the AFC North, but they're the best team right now in the AFC. And I said it at the start of the season, and I'm going to say it again. I believe the Baltimore Ravens will represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. I said that the start of the season, and I'm saying it again. The Chiefs, they don't have a reliable number one option at receiver. The Miami Dolphins, they struggle against elite competition. The Jacksonville Jaguars, defensively, they're awful in my eyes. I like Trevor Lawrence. I like Doug Peterson as a head coach, but I don't believe in that Jaguars defense. The one wild card, I will say, though, the one wild card in the AFC, if they make the playoffs, it's the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills are a wild card. They are a team nobody wants to play in the playoffs, because Josh Allen, when he's at his best, can beat anybody. So that's my thoughts on the AFC. In the NFC, I believe that the favorites are the San Francisco 49ers. And not only are the 49ers the favorites in the NFC, I think the 49ers are the best team in the NFL right now. They're the best team, top to bottom, in the NFL right now. The Eagles are struggling. They've lost 3 straight games, and Jalen Hurts has not played at an elite level this year. The Cowboys can't win on the road, and they also struggle against elite competition. So the favorites in the NFC have to be the 49ers right now. And I think the 49ers are the favorites in the entire NFL to win the Super Bowl this season. But I'll talk about the Ravens and Niners more later on in the show as I preview Lamar Jackson versus Brock Purdy, Ravens versus 49ers. So those are my thoughts on the best team in the AFC and in the NFC.